In this video, we got another episode of the series where I rate and improve your guys' teams. You guys send me your team on Twitter at EvansTanaka1010, and you guys could be featured in the next I rate and improve your guys' teams video. In these videos, basically what I do is give you guys a rating 1 through 10, could be a 7, an 8, a 9, or a 10, and give you guys my best suggestions to make your guys' teams as best as possible. The first squad here is going to come in from Irving. He says he's got no money spent squad. He's got 107,000 MT. He needs a new center and a new power forward, and he feels like Scotty is getting a little bit outdated and he could use some input. So looking at your squad here, you do have D Wade, Vince Carter, Draymond, Bob Nedelecki, and Kareem. So a pretty good starting lineup. And the bench is pretty decent as well. For a rating out of 10, I'm gonna give this squad a 7.5. I do think there's a couple positions you could upgrade with 107,000 MT. The first one is going to be the backup small forward position. There's a bunch of different guys you could go with, but even just a really cheap option, I think Jeff Green is a lot better at small forward than a guy like Scottie Pippen. For the backup one, I think you can maybe upgrade as well, but I know a lot of people do like Denny Avdija, and I do like the duo of Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. I will say though, I think you should maybe try to upgrade Vince Carter to a guy like Dr. J. I think if you want to play Dr. J at the 2 or the 3, I think you could do that as well. What I would do is move Hakeem to the backup center, get rid of Ralph Sampson, and for the backup 4, I'd pick up one of 3 guys: Jack Sigma, Jermaine O'Neal, or Dino Raja. Jack Sigma, going to be around 10,000 MT, maybe 15,000. Jermaine O'Neal and Dino Raja, going to be around the 40,000 MT range. So your bench could look something like Denny Avdija, Kazi Russell, Jeff Green, Jermaine O'Neal, for example, and then Hakeem Olajuwon. And then I think your starting lineup is fine. You got D Wade, Vince, Draymond, Nedelecki, and Kareem. So those are my suggestions for your squad. The second squad here is going to come in from Jay. He's got 300,000 MT, and he runs through D-Rose looking for a new center, but waiting for the next season at the moment. He's got D-Rose, Harden. Not sure if I like that backcourt. I think the backcourt's going to be a little bit too small. I kind of see here you'd like to do like smaller backcourts like LaMelo and Smart. I'm really not the biggest fan of that. Marquise Johnson is alright, and I'm not really the biggest fan of Bill Laimbeer. So for this squad, I'm gonna give you a 7 out of 10. I think it's more of just like how you're, where you're putting your players. What I would do is just decide between those 4 point guards. Pick 2 out of those 4 point guards. For me, it'd probably be James Harden and LaMelo Ball. But if you want to sell LaMelo or sell Harden and get a good amount of MT back, you can do that as well. For example, if you really like D-Rose, what I would do is sell James Harden and get rid of Marcus Smart, and then your point guards will be D-Rose and LaMelo, and now you're going to need 2 shooting guards. And I would go Dr. J for 75,000 MT and go Kazi Russell for around 25 to 30,000 MT. Only going to cost you a little over 100,000 MT, and I think already your team goes up like 0.5 of a rating. Like I said, I think your team's like a 7. If you make those quick adjustments, I think this team's already a 7.5. And then my next suggestion would be get rid of Marquise Johnson and get rid of Bill Laimbeer. If you want to go for a more expensive player, I would go with a guy like Jonathan Isaac for the backup 3, because he's going to cost you 30,000 MT, but he's going to give you some really good defense and be your lockdown defender off the bench. And then for the backup center, I would get a guy like David Robinson and then move D-Rob to the starting 5 and then have Ralph Sampson off the bench as well. Me personally, I do like Rick Smith a little bit better than Ralph. So what you could also do is put Rick Smith over Ralph Sampson if you do like Rick Smith more than Ralph. So your starting lineup would look something like D-Rose, Dr. J, Richard Jefferson, Hakeem Olajuwon, and D-Rob. And then off your bench, you would have, for example, LaMelo Ball, Kazi Russell, Jonathan Isaac, Draymond Green, and Bill Laimbeer. I think already that squad, or not Bill Laimbeer, and Ralph Sampson. I think already that squad is easily an 8 out of 10. So those are my suggestions for your squad. Next team's going to come in from Kobe Denzel. He doesn't really say anything about his squad, but he does have 185,000 MT. Looking at squad here, though, he's got Magic, Harden, AK, Bird, Will Chamberlain. He's got LaMelo, RJ, Tatum, Draymond, and James Wiseman. Overall, a pretty good team. I think there's a couple positions you could definitely upgrade, but I'm going to give this team an 8.5 out of 10. My first suggestion would probably be kind of like the last guy. I think your power forwards are just pretty undersized in my opinion. What I would do, kind of like I said for the last guy, decide between AK, Larry Bird, Jason Tatum, and Draymond Green. Decide what players you want to run at small forward. For me, I would have Draymond starting small forward, and I would have AK off the bench. If you want to run Tatum at the 4, you maybe could, but I'd probably recommend selling Larry Bird, selling Jason Tatum, getting close to 200,000 MT back for those two guys, and then picking up some better power forwards. And what I'd recommend doing is putting Wilt Chamberlain to the 4 and then picking up a guy like Kristaps or Kareem. So your starting lineup would look something like Magic, Harden, Draymond, Wilt Chamberlain, and let's say Kareem, or let's say Kristaps Porzingis. I think your starting lineup becomes a lot better. And then off the bench, you would have LaMelo, RJ, AK, and then for the backup 4, I would get Dino Raja or Jermaine O'Neal. And then for the backup center, I would pick up D-Rob. So your full team would be Magic, Harden, Draymond, Wilt Chamberlain, KP. Your bench will be LaMelo, RJ, AK-47, let's say Jermaine O'Neal, and then Dave Robinson at the backup center. If you make those upgrades, I think this team could easily be a 9 out of 10, but those are my suggestions for your squad. Next team here comes in from Molson. He says he's really thinking about getting rid of Wilt for Amari. What do you think? He's got 1.5 million MT. We can see right away Molson's got a very good squad. Ben Simmons, Luka, Cedric, Wilt, and Yao. Very good starting lineup, especially if you're on next gen. And then off the bench, you do have Magic, Jordan, Giannis, Nedelecki, and Kristaps. For the rating out of 10, this is one of the best teams in the game. I'm gonna say a 9.5 out of 10. You're saying getting Amari over Wilt. Me personally, I think Wilt's a lot better than Amari Stoudemire, but if you want to use a more fun card, a more fun power forward, I think since Amari has a good dribble sigs and he's more of like a stretch 4, he can more handle the ball, be at a better 3-point shooter. If you want more of a stretch 4, then I'd go with Amari, but I do think Wilt Chamberlain is the better power forward in my personal opinion. For suggestions for your squad, if you like Magic Johnson, I don't really have any suggestions. If you do not like Magic, I think LaMelo Ball is a perfect guy to run right beside Michael Jordan. He's going to give you some really good offense as well, while being a great lockdown defender and a very tall point guard. So what I would do is get rid of Magic, put LaMelo Ball in there, have LaMelo, Jordan, Giannis, Nedelecki, and Kristaps. And if you do that, I think your squad will be a little bit better in my personal opinion. But those are my rating and suggestions for your squad. Next team here is going to come in from Christian. He's got D'Lo, Kazi, Jonathan Isaac, Thon Maker, Jack Sigma. Overall, it's not the best team, but it is pretty good for a budget squad. I'm gonna say a 7, maybe a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. With 150,000 MT, what I'd probably do is move your starting lineup to the bench and then just build a whole new starting lineup. What you could do, for example, is starting center, go Hakeem Olajuwon. Starting power forward, go Jermaine O'Neal. Starting small forward, go with a guy like Jeff Green. Starting shooting guard, go with Dr. J. Starting point guard, go with a guy like Danny Avdija. That's what I would probably do, is have D'Lo, Kazi, Jonathan Isaac, Thon Maker, Jack Sigma, make that your backup, and then for your starting lineup, go Hakeem Olajuwon, NBA 75 version, around 25,000 MT, Jermaine O'Neal for around 40,000, Jeff Green for around 5,000 MT, go Dr. J for around 70,000, and then bring Danny Avdija to the starting lineup. And once you do that, I think this team's automatically a 7.5 out of 10 squad. So that's my rating and suggestions for your team. Next team is going to come in from KJ. He says he has 1.2 million MT, no money spent. His squad is Josh Giddey, Richard Jefferson, Draymond, Dave Robinson, Dikembe, and his bench is a little bit worse, but still a pretty decent bench. Overall, I'm gonna give this squad an 8 out of 10. For me, I like your starting lineup. I'm not gonna touch it. I will give you some suggestions for your bench though. I like Marco Fultz. I like Jack Sigma. I like Jonathan Isaac. I would improve Rocco with either go Kazi or go Dr. J for the backup 2. And then for the backup center, there's a couple different ways you could go. You could pick up some expensive centers like Kristaps Porzingis, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or you can go for more cheaper options and go David Robinson or Hakeem Olajuwon. What I probably do, you probably want to save some of your MT, so I just get David Robinson for the backup center, and then I get Dr. J for the backup 2. And once you do that, I think a squad could be an 8.5 out of 10. But that's going to do it for the video where I rate and improve your guys' teams. Like I said earlier, send me your teams on Twitter at EvanTenaka1010, and you could be featured in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.